and finding LPIN State School Mental Health Association, I found where I fit. I could be either on the care receiver side or the caregiver side. I understood what it was like to not really be understood. It's a hard world when you can't express yourself, and what I learned in the institutions was very valuable. Also, what I learned about our government was very valuable to me. In the 80s, we cared about client care. We cared about how people were doing. We cared about what was going on in your world. By 1990, now I worked in a giant institution. There were thousands of clients. In the dorm that we worked on, 25 men and 25 women, all non-ambulatory, all profoundly, terminally, last stop before you died. In the 80s, the inspectors would come in and look at the federal, state, come in and look and inspect and talk to each client. Spend days. By 85, they might talk to 4 or 5 on a side out of that 24, and then spend days on the charts. By 90, my last year in LPIN State School, I watched them spend 2 weeks on our charts ripping us apart. Doing all kinds of crazy things, and spending 5 minutes standing over and looking at all of our clients. Looks fine, where are the charts? And they sat there for 2 weeks. That was the year that I left the institutions. I moved back to, I did not move to Kokomo, I moved to Indianapolis, and I started taking care of my adoptive grandparents and did not exactly know what to do. I saw in the public schools, kids could get thrown out of school by cussing out a teacher, by threatening a teacher with bodily harm. That's an assault charge, and you're thrown out of school. But you didn't really do anything bad enough that to get into the system, so you're just in limbo. When they were talking about no child left behind and it takes a village to raise a child and all the wonderful sayings that they were doing, I always would say, yes, the ones that they cared about. The others they threw away. And so we started Kids Helping Other People Exist. In 91, we incorporated. We always said that we would be that company that did not want to deal with the government and their restrictions and their problems that they create in programs. When I have a client that needs years of help and they have you a program that's 6 months, you're not going to help that person. We never wanted to be that. We started out 91 with the first couple kids and went to work. We would do rehab, construction, different things. I would buy properties from the auditor's office, the same thing that we show our kids now, and we would buy houses for $300, $500, $1,000, make concrete floors, bathrooms that flush concrete countertops, and sell them back to families at 10% of market value, just to try and offset our costs on working on the property. At the same time, we'd be doing a bathroom remodel for you, but I'm gonna do it $2,000 less because I'm gently taking all of your stuff out and recycling it. These people don't care that your potty is pink. They just want a potty. Showing the world how you work together. You don't have to have that handout. We've lived for 20 years, and I've shown every kid that comes to us with that handout how you pull that hand back and you take care of yourself. What we've been doing, that is the goal for us all, is to be able to show that. Show what the libertarians are standing up for. Show what we are trying to do. Finding those charities that genuinely do treat the charitable world as charity, not looking to make a dollar, not saying I can't figure out how to go to work, I can't work for others, so I'm going to create a charity and pay myself a big wage. Not have the big administration costs, not have, in Rupert's Kids in 20 years, we've never had an administration cost of one. We've never spent a penny on anything other than our participants, paying them a minimum wage to go to work, buying the materials for them to go to work, our mentors and our social workers. That's who gets paid. Those are the people that are working the job. That is how you show a young man or woman that comes to you with their hand out saying, well, right now I'm on food stamps, I'm on disability, I'm on unemployment, I'm on welfare, I'm trying to get pregnant to get a check just like my mommy gets for all 12 of us. And they have 10, 20 different ideas on making that illegal living or that using living. And we keep encouraging that while not taking the time to really look at what we're doing. A lot of us in this room, when we did something wrong back in the 60s or 70s, it was put that out, pour that out, go home, don't do it again. We were hurting ourselves. Now, in the system, in any detention center, it's around 50% of the people that we are paying for out of our pockets are in jail because they were hurting themselves. Booze and drugs. Mainly pot. It's crazy what we're doing. I take those kids, that 17 to 24-year-old kid that's never worked a legal day in their life, that has no way of understanding a legal living, that has no sense of self-worth or work ethic, and I show them with hard work. We've adopted 30 city parks. We took that out of the city's budget. We are trying to do a deal with code enforcement where I found out, I checked out years ago, Indianapolis spent $4 million knocking the weeds down in abandoned properties, but is closing down public schools and taking away after-school programs that are helping our kids. We're making a deal with code enforcement where instead of paying a contractor $100 to go out and knock these weeds down, we might take 20 just to offset the cost, because we're looking at thousands of properties and it could be a big dollar, because right now, like I say, no governmental dollars. 20, 30 kids on a minimum wage, a couple mentors and a social worker, we still run a pretty good budget. And in 08, corporate America kind of went away. The last thing that Evan was talking about was fundraising. I am king fundraiser. We generate a couple $100,000 a year in our budget, and we raise it all. We don't have anybody the only people that do actually give us $5, $10, $20,000 a year are doing it because they want to, because they see the value in it. Being able to show how our kids can be part of the solution, how they can save us money, how we can all work together and eliminate that governmental piece that seems to be the big stumbler in so many of our social programs. I'm proof that you can run it without the government. Now, we've ran on a smaller scale. Before Survivor, we only had 5, 10 kids in a program a year. I ran it out of my house, out of my pocket. You try and raise fundraisers, try and raise funds with a beard down to your hair, crazy, 4 or 5 kids that, tattooed and pierced it, and you're knocking on doors saying, we're cleaning up your neighborhood, do you want to help us? You're lucky if they open the door. But we still did it. It's not the celebrityism that does the program, it's the empowerment of us all. Mm-hmm. After Survivor, our program went from 5 or 10 kids, 40, 50 kids a year. Still, no government dollars. But now we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the front end to Indianapolis and to our community, and millions on the back end. Because each one of these young men that go through our program, and every once in a while women, they go through our program. When they turn into a career criminal, you have them in your pocket for the rest of your life. $50,000 on average a year for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And that's just to incarcerate them. That's not their court costs, their offenses, or you teach them how to make a legal living, you give them the skills to have that sense of self-worth and work ethic, you show a employer that yes, this kid messed up, but they'll be a worker, and you get them out in the community. We set up companies that give us that 1 kid a year a chance. They always start out 1 kid a year. I've got companies that have taken 5, 10, 20, and they've only been with us a few years. After you get one, you see. Enough about that. I just wanted to say, thank you for having me out here. If there are any questions about our program, if there are any questions about what I am doing in Indianapolis, should I used to say 7 years ago, you give me 5 years and we will be nationwide, because the program works. We want to do. That's what we've been trying to do for years. If there are not any questions about Rupert's Kids, I'm hanging out. I unfortunately had a scheduling problem, and I'm only here tonight and I'm not here tomorrow. So if you want to see me tonight, I'm here until 1 o'clock in the morning. But tomorrow, I cannot disappoint Indiana State Fair people. I am going out to the Indiana State Fair, and I am being the spam judging contest in the morning. The judge, the spam judge. So I have to take off here by 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm here all night. We'll be hanging out a little bit. I've got a lot of information about our mentoring program and fundraising. Yes? Do the children find you, or do you find them? We get our participants. We have a waiting list from Department of Corrections that have hundreds of kids, because we take those second or third stoppers, those convicted felons that even before you're 21, you cannot get a job. Mm-hmm. We have different, like Volunteers of America, that wants a work release. Riverside and a couple of different work release programs that we're trying to work with to show how we can get the kids working. But now, dealing with the work release, you're dealing with a for-profit company that is taking our money and putting these kids to work in almost a slave labor environment and taking their check. Some of them take up to 90% of their check. But the kid just wants to get out and go to work. So even after they've worked for 6 months, they still don't have a penny. They get out. We get our kids from the system and from the street. We've had kids show up at our door with their bedroll and their pack saying, I don't want to sleep under a bridge anymore. We keep our garage open just because of that. It's amazing how many kids are out there.
Other than the obvious money thing,
right?
A small problem. What do you need to expand to other states?
You know, you need the awareness. Being able to show that creating a career criminal, trying to lock our problems up, taking an 18-year-old young man that sees no other value in himself or in the world and pulls out a gun and holds up a subway. You can't throw that kid away. One of my best mentors in Indianapolis 5 years ago held up a subway. Not loaded, but he had a gun. He was 17, bumped up to adult court. Luckily, he got himself with getting his GED and starting to getting good time and taking care of getting some college school. Although when we tested him, he still had to take the 035 classes. But he got himself out of jail in 4 years and got into work release. He worked the last year in work release. Now he's living in his own apartment, and we're getting him custody of his 3-year-old and his 5-year-old because the mother went to jail for prostitution with the kids in the back of the car when she was prostituting in the front seat.
Great.
And we are showing now that this young man that at 17 the world said he's worthless, throw him away, that now he can stand up and take care of his 3-year-old and 5-year-old, and they're not going to be a burden on us. Being able to show the communities that this young man, before Survivor, I had the toughest time in the world saying this 6'5", big tough guy is a sweetheart and he deserves another chance. I had trouble showing the 5-foot little timid one that has a heck of a record because when he gets mad he has no control, that he's a good guy. I had trouble showing that. Now after Survivor, I can do one-offs with that, but I still cannot convince a community that you're better off empowering your kids than locking them up. Create I like to say, I teach with the school of hard knocks. I'll beat you up a little bit. I love these 90-degree days. You go out in the parks and you work 5 or 6 hours in 90 degrees, you're working. That's hard to come back to tomorrow when you know what you gotta do. And the ones that can come back, you're teaching them some great skills that they've never had. Showing a community that. Communities still wanna lock their problems up. I try and show, we've tried for thousands of years to beat our kids into submission. It doesn't work. Then, you know, in the 70s, they kind of let them go free. That didn't really work either. The pendulum has got to swing somewhere in that middle. Yes, sir.
Have you had some where it hasn't worked out, there's been backtracking?
Oh, of course, of course. Now, we are dealing with that bottom 20%. The bottom 20% of our system of any correctional facilities, that bottom 20, 25% costs you 50% of your dollars because they're the hardest case crimes. They're the worst of the worst. They're the ones that are going to be the career criminals. When I had the thumb of the detention center before Survivor in my program, and we went all the way down to 12-year-old kids, we ran and if you didn't go to work, you went back to jail. We'd still have 10% of them that would look right at me and say, I'm not doing this, and would walk away and walk right back into jail. Now, we run, after Survivor, a 17 to 24-year-old program. The back end, you can be 26, 30, doesn't matter. We're voluntary. We still run a 68% success rate. Some of them do. Just like saying, going out to work in a 90-degree day in the park is hard. I don't want to come back tomorrow. Yes, you do. Sometimes they don't come back. Still, a 60% success rate, 68, but a 60% success rate with a group of kids that have a 90% recidivism rate. They are slated to be career criminals. Our system plans, our government plans, our world is starting to create the next industry of incarceration just to pay. Enough of that. Thank you guys very, very much. I'm here all evening. Thank you.